Sonali Basak joins us now with Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman and incoming CEO Ted Pick. Sonali, over to you.
Indeed, welcome to our Bloomberg television and radio audiences. I'm standing by now with Morgan Stanley CEO and Chairman James Gorman and incoming CEO Ted Pick. Big moment for Morgan Stanley, 14 years at the helm. How does it feel to be passing on the baton?
Feels great. For several reasons. One, it's time. Organizations grow because you have change. I mean, you're not going to grow by doing the same thing again and again. And I feel like we set this up several years ago with the board. We've had a very, very intentional process, and we ended up with a phenomenal outcome, which is Ted. And we've got other unbelievably good executives who are taking leadership roles as co-presidents, Andy Saperstein and Dan Simkowitz. So it's sort of what you hope for. I mean, you try and drive strategy, you try and put together a team, you try and deal with the inevitable knocks that you get from the market and the disappointments that come in times in any complex business. But at the end of the day, you're also trying to hand it off for the next generation. So it feels great and it feels right.
You've been rumored to be a CEO contender for oh so long, Ted. How does it finally feel to step into the role next year?
Sonali, Morgan Stanley was the first place that I worked out of college. And 33 years later, I'm sitting next to Mr. James Gorman. It's the thrill of a lifetime. I'm so excited.
Now, you've really inherited a gift here, a massive transformation over 14 years, one of the best valuations here in global banking. But there are investors who are worried this is as good as it gets. What do you tell them?
There's more to come. There's more to come. We look at the 5-year chart, the 10-year chart, the 15-year chart. The wealth and asset management businesses have these remarkable durable earnings. The global investment bank has lots of miles to go. So we're thrilled about the business strategy we have in place, and it's going to continue to deliver long-term value for shareholders.
Now, for both of you, we've been in such a prolonged bull market that has hit such volatile times as of late. Do you expect the next couple of years for Morgan Stanley to be a little more choppy?
I don't know. It's I thought this year would be tough, and it was. A lot of what's going in the market conspires against our particular business mix. Some of the more commercial retail banks, mortgage banks, very different business model. But our turn will come. I think, I personally think the U.S. has dodged a recession. I think the Fed is very close to being final, within probably 25 basis points. We're starting to see activity. Look at the Chevron deal we just announced the other day. I mean, phenomenal. So we're seeing activity in different sectors. It's coming alive now. So no, I think the next couple of years will be great. But what I care about is over the really long run. When we set about on this journey, we weren't focused on a quarter. And if the stock takes a dip in a quarter, I say that's kind of good news because we're buying back stock. And every share you buy back, you're retiring a dividend. So shareholders who hang tough are getting a 4.5% yield. And we're buying back stock, and the stock's cheap, so it's kind of a good situation to be in. But medium term, no, I think the firm is going to do great.
Ted, what are the biggest challenges for you as you navigate this environment?
There's just so much opportunity. We're definitely in a new paradigm. Interest rates are going to be higher for longer, and the world's gotten smaller, which means the clients need advice. They need it in the wealth and asset management space. They need it in the institutional space, our corporate clients, and we're going to have lots of activity around those clients. So I just want to make sure that we are completely aligned in the business strategy we have in place. It's something that James has painstakingly put together for 14 years. The market knows what we want to do, so I'm incredibly optimistic over the next couple of years.
Now, a lot of lessons have been learned in this building over the last several decades, really. What to do, what not to do. What is the Morgan Stanley playbook of what not to do in 2024 as you navigate this new environment?
Well, I think it's to continue to do what we've been doing, which is to treat each other with respect. This process that James and the board ran was intentional. It was respectful. I couldn't be more thrilled to be working with Andy Saperstein and Dan Simkowitz, two of my closest friends. They are extraordinary leaders. They're going to drive these businesses. The fact that we've worked so collegially, this is the kind of Morgan Stanley that we've known and loved, the blue Morgan Stanley of respect and focusing on clients. And during this painstaking process, there's been no loss of focus. We've been focused on our shareholders, on our clients, and the fact that today we had a celebration with our partners. And it was really quite a wonderful experience. experience shows that we are on the ball and sticking with the future.
I'm glad you mentioned Andy and Dan because a lot of questions here around, they were two CEO candidates. Now they're going to be the co-presidents. How do you keep them around? Are you holding them to any lockup periods?
No, they've got phenomenal job opportunities. Andy's co-president. He's now running not just wealth management, which included E-Trade, but asset management, which includes Eaton Vance. So he's overseen the biggest wealth and asset manager in the world at what I believe is the most prestigious and best investment bank in the world. Dan came out of capital markets and is now going back there after a great stint running asset management, and he's going to be running all of global trading, banking, capital markets, his old home turf, research, and most importantly, the two of them are going to work with Ted in helping to manage the firm. So, no, these are phenomenal opportunities. They're high-quality people. These are some of the best jobs on the planet, and, we're delighted to have them.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the institutional securities business. That is your old home as you move to the new spot. But, what's interesting, you've long been the number one in equities trading. Lately, Goldman has surpassed Morgan Stanley in a couple of quarters, while J.P. Morgan and Goldman have been faring better in various forms of M&A and underwriting. Do you have a plan to be number one again?
Listen, we have some great competitors, as you know, in the global investment bank, in equities and fixed income, and then across investment banking. We're focused on being number one. We want to have the right people in place. We've been investing for the next cycle. That next cycle is going to be investment banking led. And it means that in equities, we want to be one or two every quarter as we have been for the last decade. We have a fixed income business. We restructured. It's now a top 5 business. And investment banking is going to lead the next cycle. There's going to be a lot of M&A consolidation. It's going to be across industry groups. The world's gotten smaller. There's a new cost of capital. We want to be a leader, a global leader in all those spaces.
Now, James has hinted before to the possibility of more mergers and acquisitions for Morgan Stanley moving forward. You've already done some very transformative ones. Do you feel, Ted, that it's a matter of time in the CEO seat before you can do a significant deal? Or do you feel like you can jump right in?
Well, I think we now have done 3 major acquisitions over the last 15 years, all of which were in James's vision. Smith Barney shortly after the financial crisis, E-Trade at the dawn of the pandemic, and then Eaton Vance. Those are 3 major integrations. We like what we have. The business strategy's in place. Let's execute on what we have, keep the strategy in place. We always talk about acquisition candidates, but that's off into the future.
Now, the other thing, James has said that there were a few things you'd rather get out of the way before stepping down, including the U.S. investigation into Morgan Stanley's role into the block trading market. Is this something that can be resolved before you step down?
Well, I'm going to stay, as you know, Sonali, as executive chairman for a period of time. We'll see how long. Frankly, I shouldn't stay too long because it's Ted's job to run the firm now. So I'm going to be there just to help him in whatever way and obviously meet with regulators around the globe who I've got to know over the last decade plus and key clients. And also in that period, there are a few things I want to still clean up. I want to hand, I said, as clean a plate as possible. These are monster jobs and enormously complex. You travel a lot. There's a lot that comes at you. So I think it's nice to start with a clean plate. We wouldn't have announced I was stepping down if we didn't think whatever we still have left isn't manageable. I mean, I wanted to see CCAR through. We came out of that actually with a better capital ratio than we went into it. 12.9 CET1 requirement. We're at 15.5. I wanted to see the initial Basel proposal. We've seen that. I don't think it will end up where it is, and we're working very closely with regulators. I want to see the sort of summer months. Obviously, a difficult quarter. We knew that was coming. So I wanted to just see the firm through that and then through this transitional leadership. So, no, we're very comfortable with where we are in the process, and I'll do everything I can to help Ted and help Dan and Andy.
Now, one large issue that has been plaguing Wall Street is the lack of gender and ethnic diversity at the top ranks. And when this CEO search had come to its final steps, there were no women or people of color that were considered for the CEO ranks. What is your plan to increase representation in the top ranks of Morgan Stanley?
The next generation has lots of representation of all types. It's a priority. It'll continue to be a priority.
Do you have specific goals over the next few years to make sure that's,
Well, Sonali, it's a good question. We run a meritocracy. And diversity comes in all types. And we have fantastic women and men from all backgrounds in senior positions on operating committees throughout the firm. And I couldn't be more excited about the look of the firm in the next 5-10 years.
Now, I know you've said also that, largely the strategy is in place and it will be continued on into the new leadership. There is one thing that is very much in the mind of CEOs lately, and that's technological disruption happening at a rapid clip. How are you thinking about how this could change Morgan Stanley and its positioning in the future?
Well, Walter Wriston said it best. He said the most, I don't think he was totally right on this, but he observed the most important technological evolution for the financial services industry was the ATM machine. And each generation, if you look at it, has embraced technology into the businesses to make them better. What Ted did with the electronic trading and equities, so-called MSET, phenomenal. And that basically fed all of our trading apparatus that has supported that business being, again, number 1 or 2, depending on the quarter, but right up there. What we've done with E-Trade. E-Trade's a technology company with a brand. What we did with ShareWorks and what is now Morgan Stanley Work, the electronic stock plan business. And Solim, we bought. Solim's a company of programmers in Calgary, Canada, and that became the birth of the stock plan business. So there's always technological revolution. What Andy Saperstein is now doing in the AI space, sort of building off the early machine learning we did to create virtual financial advisors. It's endless. We just had a presentation to the board on it. So it's in everything we do. We have nearly 20,000 employees, direct or consultants, working for us in technology now.
Before I let you guys go, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you have to Ted as you pass over the reins?
Enjoy it. It's an incredible privilege to be able to make the call, to make decisions. Sometimes you'll be wrong. The only way to be right is not to make any. So I took the approach of, I was looking for, I don't know what the analogy is, something at bats, so I'm not really a baseball player, but I wanted to make enough decisions where we got a lot of things right. And along the way, a few things mightn't go your way, but that's okay. Just enjoy the journey, embrace the good bits and the bad bits, as Kipling said in If, and those imposters of success and failure. And keep yourself focused on the long term. You're going to have great quarters, and you're going to have disappointing quarters. You're going to think the stock should be up when it's down and down when it's up. None of that matters. What matters is the long-term health of the franchise, the values, and your own stability in that role. And part of that is building a team. He's off to a phenomenal start in 24 hours. He got a standing ovation from the board last night. We had a wonderful dinner with directors. We had all partners live in this building today and broadcast around to our 83,000 employees. So, enjoy the moment. It's an incredible privilege.
Ted, James, it was a pleasure to spend time with you on such a landmark day for Morgan Stanley, and hope to see you at the turn of the year when you take your new job.